ground, but away from the cloudier zones there will be some clear skies, and under the clear skies temperatures taking a bit of a dip, touch of frost quite likely, especially across parts of Scotland. The sheltered glens could drop a few degrees below freezing. Elsewhere, most towns and cities just about holding up above freezing. But across Scotland it's generally going to be a bright start tomorrow for many places. Those showers across some northern and western coastal parts in particular. A few showers for coastal parts of Northern Ireland too, but across the bulk of England and Wales, apart from a few showers towards the southwest, it's looking largely dry away from the far east, across parts of Lincolnshire, East Anglia, even towards Kent and London. A bit cloudier here and some blustery showers around coastal parts, but a lot of this will ease away as we go through into the afternoon. Otherwise, there will still be a few showers towards the northwest, but not that many, and actually a good deal of bright sunny spells to be had, a bit sunnier than today for many of us, though temperatures not rising that high, highs around 8 or 9 in the north and 9 or 10 further south. After a cold, frosty night for many overnight into Friday, Friday's actually looking like another largely fine day. Even more sunshine on offer and dry for most of us, though towards the far northwest there is going to be a bit of cloud building in later, and that's because there's a front arriving, and that's going to bring some wet weather to northern parts as we go into the weekend, but staying dry and fine towards the south. Bye-bye.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
There's just 2 weeks left to grab your chance to be one of 2 big winners in our latest Great British giveaway. First, you'll win a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash to spend however you like. You'll also receive the very latest iPhone 16, and we'll send you on a shopping spree with £500 to spend in your favourite store. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
It's 10 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys. Tonight.
That is the breast milk of a mother cow that was intended for her baby. You are a male adult. You are drinking something full of pus and estrogen that was intended for a newborn calf.
Will you go vegan to save the planet? I'm about to list all of the bonkers things that you might be forced to do for net zero. And
Mauritius had no links with Chagos.
The same judge who said Britain must surrender the Chagos Islands wants you to pay 18 trillion quid in slavery reparations.
We will deliver our commitment to spend 2.5% of GDP on defence. That means we will cut our spending on development assistance.
Why is Starmer now refusing to say whether the billions he'll send to Mauritius will be included in his new defence spending budget? I've got Robert Jenrick, the man you saw in that earlier clip, live on this show in a couple of minutes' time. Plus,
no more fear. Trump Gaza is finally here. Trump Gaza shining bright. Golden future, a brand new life. Feast and dance, the deal is done.
well, Starmer is currently on his way to meet President Trump in Washington. We are tracking his plane live. Our political editor, Christopher Hope, is on that plane with him, and he's reported back to us some important lines that I'll be able to bring to you at 10:30, so watch this space. But when he gets there, will this guy be there to greet him?
This is the chainsaw for bureaucracy. Chainsaw!
OK, all right. On my panel tonight, we've got Associate Editor at the Daily Express, Sam Lister, landlord and activist Adam Brooks, and historian and broadcaster Dr. Tessa Dunlop. And a slightly lighter note, can you tell me what you think is going on at this pub?
You've been feeling salty about our village pub closing down.
We might be Delulu, but we're trying to save our pub from being knocked down, along with its rich 400-year history.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. The only thing you have to do to hit Ed Miliband's net zero target is give up everything you love. Next.
Good evening. It's just gone 10 o'clock. These are your headlines. Donald Trump has confirmed President Zelenskyy will visit him on Friday to sign a very big agreement. The US president held his first cabinet meeting at the White House since his inauguration last month, joined by his billionaire advisor Elon Musk. Attention quickly turned to the minerals deal with Ukraine.
President Zelenskyy is going to be coming on Friday. That's now confirmed, and we're going to be signing an agreement which will be a very big agreement. And I want to thank Howard and Scott for the job you guys did in putting it together. Really did an amazing job. And that'll be on rare earth and other things.
He went on to say the United States would not be making security guarantees for Ukraine in its deal to end the war with Russia, but that Europe would. Meanwhile, Downing Street has confirmed that President Zelenskyy will meet with Keir and other European leaders in London on Sunday. It is thought that Mr. Zelenskyy is planning to make the trip to discuss defence. Elsewhere, Keir Starmer has refused to say if the deal to give away the Chagos Islands to Mauritius would be funded by the increase in defence spending. The Prime Minister told the Commons that the increase to 2.5% of GDP is for our capability on defence and security in Europe, and described the deal being negotiated with Mauritius as extremely important for our security. Tory MP Kieran Mullen asked Sir Keir during Prime Minister's questions to give an unequivocal answer on where the money would come from, but the Prime Minister declined to say whether the money for the deal would come from the increase in defence spending. Meanwhile, Reform UK leader Nigel Farage has been in the Commons voting on the Chagos Islands deal motion and has sparked outrage by suggesting we sell it to America.
I would rather see America have the sovereignty of the Chagos Islands that are corrupt Mauritius. Why don't we, if we're going to give this up, let's sell. Let's get a few billion quid for the Mauritius Islands, for the Chagos Islands. Mauritius has no legal basis, no legal claim, and you know what? Investment would come. The Chagosians could go back and get well-paid jobs. I want us to keep sovereignty, but if you're prepared to give away this country's interests, sell it to America, don't give it away to corrupt Mauritius.
And Gary Lineker has joined calls for a return of the axed BBC Gaza documentary starring a Hamas chief's son. The Match of the Day host condemned the BBC for bowing to censorship after the broadcaster pulled a documentary accused of blindly spouting Hamas propaganda. The presenter, who was due to step down from his high-profile role in May, was one of 500 industry figures backing Gaza, How to Survive a War Zone, and calling for it to be reinstated on iPlayer. The open letter, published by Artists for Palestine UK, criticised what the signatories said was a racist and dehumanising campaign targeting the documentary. The BBC's board is expected to discuss the film tomorrow. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now it's back to Patrick.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Welcome along. This government is obsessed with net zero. Your bills are going up again. So, according to the Climate Change Commission, the independent advisors to the government on how it might meet its net zero target by 2050, here's all the mental things you'll have to do. Spoiler alert, it might still not be enough. Spend £15,000 installing a heat pump. Half of homes will need one by 2040, and taxpayers will pay £7,500 for every single one that's installed. Cows must be stopped from farting. They'll either be fed stuff that stops them tooting, genetically engineered not to Trump, or farmers will have to pay a fart tax on their livestock like they already do in Denmark. Don't go abroad. No foreign holidays. The government needs 17% fewer flights than in 2023. So what does that mean? Tax to put you off going to Marbella and keep you in Morecambe. You're going to be taxed to oblivion, which is why Ryanair boss Michael O'Leary says stuff like this.
I get a letter back this week from some dopey junior minister, James Murray, who's the Exchequer Secretary to the Treasury. Probably shows you just how out of touch Her Majesty's Treasury are with reality. If Rachel Rubbish is serious about delivering growth, abolish aviation tax.
Yeah. Don't eat meat. Obviously, the climate loons want us all to go vegan and live off a diet of tofu, soybeans, avocado paste and misery. But for now, they're happy for you to cut back on 2 doner kebabs a week. The only time anyone ever orders a doner kebab is when they're drunk. All right? The day I walk into a kebab shop at 3 a.m. and see a bloke from Burnley, 9 pints deep, built like Andy Fordham, saying, just the usual, please, a salad pita bread. I mean, it's the day that I pack my things up and go on a one-way trip to Mars. Stop driving. We should all be getting electric cars, even though the minerals for their batteries have to be mined out of the ground by a one-armed Congolese child who's being whipped by tribal warlords for not working fast enough. Don't drive, ride a bike instead, so you can look like this guy. Oh, yeah, great stuff. I can't wait until we're a nation of Jeremy Vines. We must have electric ambulances. Fantastic. You can wait 14 hours for one at the best of times, but this way you can be having a heart attack and die the kind of death that we all long for. Slumped on the curb at Watford Gap service station, staring longingly at the electric charging points while a paramedic says, if you can just cling on for another 4 hours, there's a good chance you'll pull through. Put your rubbish in about 7 different bins. Plastic in one, food in another. Is that cotton? You can't put cotton in that bin, you moron. It goes over there, next to the tin bin. But watch out, you don't confuse it for the glass bin or the one we put cardboard in. At least, if you get it wrong, you'll have weeks to sort it out because bin collectors are either on strike or they only come round every few weeks anyway. Do you like the view outside your window? Well, screw you, it's a wind farm now. Have that, countryside. They're going to stack it full of big giant bird killers. And if you don't like them, they'll do you a deal. Wallop, have a solar farm instead. Any idea how much this will cost, by the way? All of this, what's the cost? Well, for the period between 2025 and 2040, the Climate Change Committee reckon it might set you back £320 billion. But wait. There's more. You need to pay for your climate reparations. One study wants rich countries to pay $170 trillion to poorer nations by 2050. The only consolation, of course, is that by 2050, every single person in the Middle East or Africa will have probably entered Europe illegally, so there'll be nobody left there to compensate. Take a look at this guy, all right? Take a look at him, all right? Yeah, there he is. If the government accepts the advice, just remember, you're doing it all for him. When you have to give up your car, your dinner, your late-night kebabs, your garden, the view outside your window, your means of transport to hospital, all the money in your wallet and everything you had in savings for your grandkids, and your entire kitchen is made up of different coloured bins, and you're taking it in turns to stand naked underneath a freezing cold shower before desperately trying to warm yourself up with a hemp blanket. You are doing it for the man who mangled a bacon sandwich and created an headstone that became a political gravestone. Is it all worth it, really? Do you really care that much about net zero? I don't. Let's get the thoughts from my panel this evening. We've got the Associate Editor at the Daily Express, Sam Lister, businessman and activist Adam Brooks, and, of course, historian and broadcaster Dr Tessa Dunlop. Oh, you know, Sam, I'm just... in case it didn't come across there, you know, I just don't really care. Does anyone... seriously, are we going to do all this? Is life worth living without all of that stuff?
I mean, I'm with you. You know, I've got quite a hedonistic street, Patrick. I don't want to sit there eating mung beans for my dinner. I think I will hitch a lift to Mars with you, if that's all right.
Good.
I mean, come on, like, you know... Look, I believe there is an issue, but I don't believe it will be solved by sending us back into the past. You have to solve this through technology. You cannot solve this by making people pretend that the lifestyle that they have been living is, you know, now unacceptable, and they have to pretend it's not the 1950s. I just think we have to deal with reality here. Once you become accustomed to a certain way of life, you cannot then pretend these things haven't existed. You cannot pretend the car hasn't existed.
But there's also an element of hypocrisy here. I mean, Ed Miliband doesn't appear to be giving anything up. I mean, he's flying around all over the place. I don't know if he's vegan. I very much doubt it. I've seen him eat a bacon sandwich. We all have. I can't unsee it. You know, and you know, what are this lot doing to cut back on their carbon footprint?
Well, this is the thing. Holidays will become only for those well off, you know, and that includes probably Ed Miliband and all the MPs. You know, they expect you to change, but not them.
Hang on a minute, Adam. I thought you were the person an hour ago who said you didn't care to go outside of Britain.
No, I didn't say I don't care to go outside of Britain. I go abroad quite a lot, but you know, I didn't say that, Tess. To be fair, but look. We are less than 1% of global emissions in the world, yet we've got China building power stations like they're going out of fashion. What we do in this country makes absolutely no difference to the future of climate. We are just simply self-harming. And when I see videos of that, and for me, he is a climate pillock, really, you know, when he does his little guitar videos and treats us like children, it annoys me. And, you know, as I said before, these will still go on holiday, but we won't be able to afford to.
All right. I mean, Tessa, what do you make of all of this? I mean, it does seem like a heck of a lot to have to give up or change our lives for what might actually be net zero benefit, really, for the world.
I'm just a bit confused. Maybe it's because it's late and I'm not used to being up past the witching hour or nearing the witching hour. But I don't understand why you're so upset, because actually the Labour government has rescinded on its own net zero £1 billion worth of commitment that it made prior to the general election. Ed Miliband, sort of on pain of death almost, was forced to vaguely try and pretend he was going to go along with a third runway at Heathrow. And we've got, leading the group, Trump saying, drill, baby, drill.
Just say that the boss of the Climate Committee is on record saying he thinks these policies will be widely supported by the public.
But just to be clear about what's actually happening, what the government's actually doing, it's clearly not particularly committed to net zero. I'm personally very disappointed. And actually, if you look at BP, British Petroleum, who committed in 2020
the people who've been made unemployed in Aberdeen would probably say, or the people who've been put out of business at the Port Talbot Coke plant will probably say this government is very committed to net zero.
I think Port Talbot was drawn up under the Conservatives, and BP is much the biggest news today. They've swung right away from all their decisions in 2020 to invest in renewables, and they've parked all their tanks on oil and gas.
I'll tell you why I'm upset about it. I'll tell you very clearly. Because Ed Miliband and this Labour government were elected on a manifesto that promised 650,000 jobs, green jobs, by 2030, and promised to cut energy bills by £300 by 2030. And this is part of their Green Prosperity Plan. This is their net zero promise, that actually we will get rich off the back of net zero. And that has all been found to be nonsense by Tony Blair's Institute, not by some right-wing organisation, by the think tank set up by Tony Blair. He said they are vastly overestimating the benefits of this, that actually the
which is why they've already backpedalled. They've already backpedalled from it.
It came out last week, and bearing in mind we're only, what we're in now, 8 months from the election, they made those promises. They promised to cut energy bills by £300. That is not going to happen. They're going up. They're going up. They've gone up this week.
They've pledged 22 billion of our money on carbon capture, which is a technology that has never worked anywhere where it's been tried. 22 billion pounds.
That's the black hole, isn't it?
Right, exactly that. They've also pledged, I think it's 11.6 or 11.7 million to foreign climate aid.
So just out of interest, I'm getting this kind of heated vibe from all of you that while you probably pretty much have to concede that the climate is changing and changing pretty fast, that's a... I mean...
But nothing we do in this country will change that.
So what do you think humankind should do? Should we just sort of go, we don't care, we'll be dead by the time...
We shouldn't be making promises and changing our way of life until we have the technology that is available so we can do a smooth transition.
But in order to have the technology, you need to invest, don't you, to work out...
We don't need to invest with Chinese-made wind turbines, though, that they might be able to back-engineer to be able to turn off whenever they want.
So what do you want to make your impacts? I mean,
what we could make, I mean, dare I say, the carbon capture thing in the northeast, we've outsourced to a Norwegian company. Again, why aren't we making that ourselves? You know, there are ways around it where you could really sell it to the British public. We're going to create a load of jobs in the northeast, and we're going to keep that money in Britain. But we're not. We're giving that away to everyone else. Some of it is our enemy.
Right. So to be clear, your issue isn't with dealing with climate change. It's that it's not made in Britain enough. We've outsourced too much of the component parts.
I think, yeah, that is part of it. Yeah, I think it's a ridiculous way to...
And we cannot change the climate, you know.
Well, we can, clearly. I mean, mankind climate change has been proven. No, it's been proven. I'm so sorry.
There is no evidence to prove anything that we do in this country is going to change the climate one iota. That's a lie.
Yeah, but do you concede? I mean, I'm not even going to ask you the question because
India,
we now know that
and China are going in the opposite direction. Why are we making ourselves poorer and risking blackouts, increased bills, and having to change our way of life
I'll tell you why,
when the rest of the world doesn't? Why?
I'll tell you why. Because we have extraordinary capacity through our access to wind and wave as an archipelago to be world market leaders, where the direction of travel ultimately, whatever Trump says for 4 years about drilling babies, right, whatever he says, ultimately the future will have to be green and we should lead it.
We paid £62 million to the biggest wind farm in this country to stop producing 3/4 of their power. That's what we're doing. We're wasting money. This wind farm is being paid to not produce power.
And people like Andrew Neil put up the energy figures daily sometimes without
he's on an agenda. Andrew Neil has his own political agenda.
It's a fact that we would have blackouts if we didn't have coal power.
Because we haven't transitioned yet. Of course we would.
I'll just politely say...
Do you want to say something on your own show?
Yeah. Okay. All right. It's nice having you here, Tess. I've not gone full Dunlop yet. I've seen it on other shows.
But it's very gendered.
I've seen it on other shows, and I'm like, oh gosh, that's a lot, and then it is a lot.
But actually, what's interesting
when you're right here.
But what's interesting is, and I like Adam very much, but he has a louder voice than me. But I will get the trolling for shouting, and that is
sexism.
Sexism.
It is sexism.
It is. So I'm just going to check in on Twitter, see how much sexism.
Just to say that another thing that I get to wear basically the same suit every night, and no one cares, right? But if I was a female presenter and I wore the same thing every night, it'd get picked up on. I'm like Mr. Bean. I own 2 of the same suit, and I just interchange. Anyway, we've got to move on. Right.
I've worn the same bra for a week.
Lovely. Didn't need to know. Right, so it's now time for the Great British Giveaway. Unfortunately, it's not a bra. Actually, it's so I don't know what it is. Phones, I think. Have a look at this.
Don't miss your chance to be one of 2 big winners in our latest Great British Giveaway, as we have 2 prize bundles that have to be won. There's 2 lots of a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash. You'll also receive a brand new iPhone 16, along with £500 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. Hurry, lines close on the 7th of March. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Welcome back. I'll bring you all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages. Right, and the Prime Minister is currently in the skies on his way to meet Trump in Washington. Our political editor is on that plane with him, and we're going to tell you exactly what's been said on whatever we call our prime ministerial jet. But first...
Mauritius had no links with Chagos.
Yes, Shadow Justice Minister Robert Jenrick is just over there, and he'll be in the studio in a minute. He's going to launch, I imagine, an astonishing takedown of the Prime Minister's Chagos surrender deal. Stay tuned.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain's Newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
It's very emotional. It's designed to shock. What do you want people to take away from that advert?
I think, very sadly, a lot of people don't realise the violence and death that's prevalent in the dairy industry. For a cow to produce milk, she needs to be made pregnant, and then for humans to have that milk, the calves are snatched away. So that goes on for around 5 years. The cows are made pregnant every year. Terrible diseases occur because they are producing 10 times more milk than is natural. And then they are killed. The calves that are taken away, if they're male calves, are shot. And for the female calves, just like their mums, they're going to go through the same thing.
We've got Kelly Seaton here, who appears to have a cow nudging you, Kelly, behind you. That cow looks quite content with you.
The industry has worked incredibly hard. We have an excellent resource in that we can use semen, so actually the amount of bull calves that are born is a lot less than what it used to be. We're working really hard to ensure that every calf goes down the right route. So actually shooting bull calves isn't a practice that takes place any longer.
We can be kind, we should be kind.
And I'm kind to my kids by giving them cow's milk, which is full of vitamins A, magnesium, zinc, B12, calcium, vitamin D. This is stuff that children need to grow, isn't it, Kelly? And I think what my problem is, Ben, is that your commercial is all about emotion. It's manipulating. It's not facts. You're not laying out facts about the dairy industry.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight. So coming up, I'm going to go live to Washington, actually, because the Prime Minister is touching down in a couple of hours' time for crunch talks with Trump. But it all feeds into this because, first, in a video posted on social media, Shadow Justice Secretary Robert Jenrick has accused the Prime Minister of betraying Britain with his Chagos Islands deal.
It was the French who first occupied them until 1814, when Napoleon loses the Battle of Paris, and the French agree to give Mauritius and all of their islands in the region, including Chagos, to the British. Mauritius had no links with Chagos.
Yeah, exactly. So, indeed, it was revealed earlier today that the international judge who ruled against the UK on the Chagos Islands has since called for Britain to pay more than £18 trillion in reparations for slavery. So quite why on earth we're listening to him, I'm not entirely sure. But joining now is Shadow Justice Secretary Robert Jenrick. Robert, thank you very, very much. Well, first things first, let's just deal with the betrayal. I mean, you laid out a little history lesson there. I mean, we absolutely don't have to give this away, do we, Chagos?
No, the heart of this is a decision by the International Court of Justice. And look at who is on that court. There's a judge who was appointed by Putin, in fact, who won an award for loyalty to Russia. You've got someone who was appointed by Xi Jinping and the Chinese. And then you've got this judge who has called for 18 trillion, not billion, trillion pounds to be paid by the UK for reparations. You know, what a mad thing to say. These are the people who Starmer is investing the decision as to whether we give up our own sovereign territory. And the court themselves say this is an opinion. It's not legally binding. It's just advisory. Starmer could end this tomorrow. He could say, we're not doing this. This is British territory. We're not going to give it to an ally of China. But he doesn't have the backbone to do that. Frankly, I think this is a betrayal of Britain.
There's a secondary aspect to this, which is that yesterday it was we're cutting back foreign aid and we're going to boost defence spending. And today it turns out that maybe some of the money we're going to give to Mauritius might be included in that defence spending. Seems a bit ridiculous, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, he effectively said after PMQs that some of this relatively small, but nonetheless welcome uplift in defence spending is actually going to pay for this deal. You know, we're living in a country which cannot invest properly in its armed forces, where we're taking the winter fuel allowance from poor pensioners who are struggling to get by, and yet, allegedly, Keir Starmer can find £10 billion or more to pay Mauritius, an ally of China, to take our own sovereign territory. You know, this is an appalling deal, as I set out in that video. There are no legal justifications for it. It's bad for our national security, and it's going to cost us billions of pounds that, frankly, we don't have as a country.
Yeah, I mean, look, so Starmer has not, well, at the same time, he's not denied it. It's also not confirmed that we're going to be sending money to Mauritius as part of our uplift in defence spending, so we'll have to wait and see on that one. Of course, he says, well, look, we have to do this because this is part of a pragmatic realism on the world stage, and we might curry some favour then with the kind of international law types like this, Judge.
Look, it comes down to what do you really believe as a politician, and I believe that we should always put the British people first. I think your viewers are sick and tired of hearing international courts, you know, foreign institutions being put above the interests of the British people. And it is not in the interest of the British people to give up our sovereign territory, on which there is a very important base that we share with the United States, and to pay billions of pounds for the privilege.
Just on that United States issue, David Lammy said something quite extraordinary earlier on. He basically revealed that President Trump has a veto over this. A couple of things. Well, why does he have a veto over our sovereign territory, even if we might quite like him to veto this? But secondly, you know, what has been the point of Labour wasting all of this political capital on this if Trump can just turn around and go, no?
Well, I think firstly we should show some self-respect. This is our own sovereign territory. It's been British since 1814. You know, there is no reason we should be giving this away. Even the guy who led Mauritius to independence, their kind of independence hero, has said it's completely ridiculous that there's any suggestion that these islands, you know, should belong to Mauritius. There's no reason we should be doing this. We should have the self-respect as a country to say this is ours. We're not giving it away, and Keir Starmer could do that tomorrow.
Do you want Trump to veto it, though, if it comes to that?
Well, look, if our own leaders are so weak and feckless that they want to do this, then yes, I would love to have, you know, President Trump to step in and end this farce. But it shouldn't have to come to that, should it?
No, well, we'd hope not. But another point is, Nigel Farage stood up in the House of Commons earlier today. He was saying, well, if we're going to give it away to Mauritius/China and pay a load of money for the privilege, then we might as well just sell it to the Americans. Where would you be on that?
Well, I think he made a fair point that Mauritius is not a country that we want to be dealing with. They are in league to China. You know, they have participated in over 47 agreements with China, where China is investing in them. People like the former head of the Navy, Admiral Lord West, have said the reason China is so invested in Mauritius and keen to stop this deal, keen to ensure that Mauritius takes control of the territory, is because ultimately they want to control this base because it's so strategically important. So if, God forbid, Keir Starmer wants to proceed with it, then yes, I would prefer it to be US territory than Mauritian territory, but it doesn't have to be like this. This is British territory. let's ensure that we maintain that for generations to come.
Yeah, look, hey, finally, Keir Starmer's very strong about this. This is his line that he always wheels out. He says, well, all of this started under your lot, under your mob, the Tories.
Well, I don't think we should have started those negotiations. You know, you don't put your house on the market if you don't actually want to follow through and sell it. But in fairness to the last Conservative government, David Cameron became Foreign Secretary and immediately reviewed the evidence, concluded that this was a bad deal and stopped it. So this would not have happened under a Conservative government. It's Starmer who's chosen to do it, and he's doing it because he's got this extreme idea of international law where he thinks, alongside his mates from the legal profession like Philippe Sands and Lord Hermer, the Attorney General, that it is more important to curry favour with international lawyers than it is to put the British interest first, and that is fundamentally wrong. We have to stop it.
Well, thank you very much for your time this evening, as ever. It's Robert Jenrick there, the Shadow Justice Secretary. Keir Starmer's going to touch down in Washington relatively soon. I wonder if Trump's going to make him an offer on Chagos or just veto it. One way or another, we'll be bringing that to you, won't we? The Prime Minister is on his way over there now, and our political editor, Christopher Hope, is travelling with him, and I'll bring you the very latest on some lines that Starmer has apparently been talking about on the plane that I can finally reveal to you, so stay tuned.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Looking ahead to tomorrow, and there's some fairly wet weather affecting some parts of more southern Europe. We have a band of rain sweeping in, affecting Madeira, also Portugal and western parts of Spain. Some stronger winds here as well. A little bit drier across more central parts, some decent sunshine on offer here, but still more unsettled weather affecting eastern parts of the Med towards Greece, towards Cyprus. There's some heavy rain around, but things are looking drier, not necessarily sunny, into the weekend. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Tubes & Co. Weekdays from 6 p.m.
We often ponder the state of the nation. So this story then really caught my eye. A head teacher who some people have dubbed, I quote, the head teacher from hell. He's caught the press attention because he has a school in Wales. He's now looking at introducing Saturday detentions. He says that we have to stop mollycoddling kids and start to bring back good old-fashioned discipline.
We are fed up with kind of being soft on discipline. We are fed up of hiding behind words like well-being and safe spaces. There has to be a consequence to an action, and that's why we're trying to instill a cul-de-sac.
And tell me about the parents of some of these kids, because I would argue that much of the breakdown in society does come now. You see these kids on public transport, they don't have earphones in, they just listen to their music, they've got no respect for their elders. I know I sound like an old fuddy-duddy, but it all seems to have kind of broken down, and then I find myself, Alan, thinking, well, what are the parents doing in all of this? Are the parents supportive of your approach or not?
So we've got 1,300 parents. 2 or 3 took their children out of the school because they didn't agree with it. About 20 sort of kicked back, but now are on board. I think that's a great statistic. It shows that the overwhelming vast majority of people want this kind of discipline. And I don't blame young people today for the state of the culture or the nation. They are the fruit of it. I believe that if my generation puts in place strict discipline, firm boundaries, no means no, then we will get the young people that we want and that, you know, we deserve.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys Tonight. Here are tomorrow's newspaper front pages before we go live to America. OK, the iPaper. Back to Europe. Oh, sorry, no. Back Europe on Putin and meet King. That's a weird headline. Anyway, Starmer's top Trump card. Right, next, The Independent. Starmer faces up to Trump over Ukraine role in peace talks. Well, I'm going to just go into more detail on this in a minute because we're about to take you stateside. But the Daily Express... Claudia cops to search hidden loft. Detectives plan to re-enter missing Claudia Lawrence's home after it emerged that a hidden loft above her bedroom may never have been physically searched. Interesting stuff. A case that, of course, has gripped the nation. The Daily Telegraph. Starmer to confront Trump on Ukraine. Well, I think it's with this because it's... also, there is a story down the side there. I'll just read the headline to you. You ready? BBC pays Taliban to broadcast in Afghanistan. Fantastic. Well, there we go. At least it's not Hamas. Anyway, so let's go to America, I think, because as we speak, there it is. Look at that purple line in the plane on your screen there. That's Keir Starmer. He's on the way to Washington, D.C. for his big first face-to-face meeting with Donald Trump. And our political editor, Christopher Hope, has been on the plane with him, and he's managed to get on the Wi-Fi and feed back some lines for us. So... these are the big lines that have come out from the Prime Minister's jet. The Prime Minister has warned that Vladimir Putin will attack again unless America agrees to underwrite the security of Ukraine after a peace deal has been signed. He's also said that conflict zones around the world are set to be prioritised with the UK's shrunken aid budget. So there we go. But I wanted to know, what can Starmer expect when he lands in Washington? What's the mood like towards our Prime Minister and indeed our country, I suppose, from the Americans on the ground, the Republicans especially? I'm joined now by former aide to Ronald Reagan, Mary Jo Jacoby. Thank you very much. Always great to see you.
Great to see you, Patrick.
What can Keir Starmer expect from Trump, from Vance, dare I say, even maybe from Musk?
I think he's going to meet with them all. I would bet that Pete Hegseth is around for the Chagos discussion. Probably Marco Rubio is around for the discussion of Ukraine. So I think he'll get a full frontal assault from the Trump administration. I think it will be very warm. And I think that the president has an opportunity to help the prime minister, if you will, particularly with respect to Chagos. I am not aware, and I've done a lot of research lately about Chagos, of any conversation with the United States government about ceding these islands to Mauritius. I am fully aware that there is one of the most sensitive military bases on Earth, Diego Garcia, on the Chagos Islands. And I think Donald Trump could help Keir Starmer out of a sticky situation by offering to take it off his hands.
Yeah, and I mean, look, the other question on most people's lips, I imagine, is does Trump and that administration there forgive Starmer and co for some of the, frankly, scandalous things they've said about him in the past? And Elon Musk, as well, has been absolutely scathing about Keir Starmer, even called for at least one of his cabinet ministers to be put in prison. So how do you think that's going to go?
Well, I think it will be cordial. As we know from his previous term, the president sort of forgives, but he doesn't forget. And he finds a way to get his way. And I will be looking for that. But I do think that it will be a courteous meeting. But I don't think that the prime minister should look for everything to go completely his way.
Exactly. Very wise words. Well, thank you very much, Mary Jo. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. I'm sorry it's a bit short and sweet tonight, but I've got my panel here with me and we're going to get stuck into some more detail. So you take care. Until next time, Mary Jo Jacoby there, former aide to Ronald Reagan. Sam, I'll bring you in, Sam Lister, Associate Editor at The Daily Express. So it's going to be a big day for Starmer tomorrow, isn't he? He'll be dominating the news. He touches down, presses the flush with the Donald. How do you see it going?
I mean, I cannot overstate how high the stakes are here.
And I think, I am actually, you know that Starmer is not somebody who I think takes the right approach on many things, but I am really wishing him well on this because I think it's so significant, so important. This is about our security, Europe's security, about the Western alliance. And if he can pull it off, then that is an amazing thing. But it is absolutely, it's ridden with potential pitfalls here. The press conference, if there is a press conference, the ability for Donald Trump to just go completely off-piste and for Starmer to be left flailing is huge.
Well, there's a lot for him to go at. I mean, we revealed earlier on that J.D. Vance is expecting to confront Starmer. He said he will, about freedom of speech in the UK. Obviously, people can argue with the rights and wrongs of that, but he said he's going to do it. That could be quite awkward for him. Elon Musk clearly doesn't like him. There is the potential for Trump to just go rogue, really. Macron also had an earlier meeting with him and seemed to get on with him quite well. Very touchy-feely.
Dear Donald.
My dear Donald.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you see this going, Adam? What do you think?
Let's have it right. They've got to do what he says, effectively. We've got no leverage against Donald Trump and the mighty America. We need them more than anything. Without them in the world, there would be carnage. So whatever Donald Trump says is going to happen, Keir Starmer will say, OK, when do you want us there? But let's remember as well, we couldn't even fill Wembley Stadium with our army anymore. We're not a powerhouse like we used to be. So we haven't really got a lot to offer in that respect. It's a front that we've got to put up. But I do not believe Keir Starmer will put his foot down in any way with Donald Trump.
Well, what do you see happening here? I mean, are we missing something here? Do you think there's the chance that Trump comes out and goes, you know what, I don't care about the Chagos Islands, I think Starmer's doing a great job and he's a great guy? I mean, what do you think?
What's interesting is you've just talked about, and I think a lot of the sort of mood music around Trump is referencing power and strength. And I actually think one of the reasons for this recent shift towards isolationism is about America's relative decline in the world. It's no longer the preeminent economic and military power. It sees China and it realises it's got to pull in its belt and adjust itself accordingly. And actually, potentially, if it got its act together, the EU is a greater market force. It's more populist. It actually, if the euros altogether pack a bigger punch than the dollar, they just don't function in the way they should. And I think Trump would like to pick off players within the EU, Orban, the likes of, and look how they're interfering in Romania, for example. And that's why they interfered with the far right in the election in Germany, because they're trying to destabilise what they consider a rival bloc to their hegemony. And actually, weirdly, and I say this as a passionate Remainer, for the first time ever, I think that the Brexit position of Britain does put us in a slightly stronger position, because it makes Trump feel warmer towards us. And I think he perceives us as somebody he can use as a bridge to that EU that he actually wants to destabilise.
How amazing, as a Brexiteer myself, that we're talking about EU as some powerhouse. It's meant to be a trade bloc. Nothing else.
Yeah, but trading is hugely powerful.
Yeah,
where did Trump stamp first? All over the trade rules.
We're talking about EU armies and
No, we're not. They don't have an army. No, so you might be talking about it, but it's nonsense. So don't talk about it anymore, because there isn't an army. I wish there was. We need a European army, but there isn't.
But we moved from an EU trading bloc into something more.
Well, we didn't. We didn't, because they're no longer in the EU.
Just on the Brexit side of it, obviously Trump tonight has announced the 25% tariff on everything coming from the EU into America, and obviously we are not part of that. So hopefully we remain outside that punitive scheme, because it is insane, I have to say.
He doesn't. America are threatened by the potential size, the real size actually of Europe.
Just remember, under Biden, America weakened in the global stage. I mean, for Christ's sake, they had generals that wore makeup and skirts. They become a laughingstock around the world. So Donald Trump is now showing the force of America, which they are.
Just to go, we're going to put a pin in this for now, because we're returning to the front pages tomorrow. I love that story. I mean, I hate it, but I love the headline that the BBC is now paying the Taliban for broadcasting rights in Afghanistan, by the way. But coming up, what on earth is going on here?
No more fear. Trump Gaza is finally here. Trump Gaza shining bright. Golden future, a brand new life. Feast and dance, the deal is done.
Yeah, I mean, that's got #1 written all over it. I'll reveal all next. And can I just say, I would love to see you here in this very studio for my Friday night audience show. I want to see as many of you. We had people coming from all over the country. Last time, people from Aberdeen, we had people from up north, we had people from the Midlands, we had people from everywhere.
Cost of living crisis.
Wow, hey, people are that dedicated, Tessa, that they will be willing to come and spend their Friday night with me.
That's extraordinary.
So you can also... And look, we gave free sausage rolls and booze. Anyway, here's how you can. Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christys Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christys Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening. It's time for your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. And I have some good news if you're hoping for some fine weather as we go towards the very end of meteorological winter. High pressure is building, and so the frontal system that's brought quite a bit of rain today and then showers following behind is all going to get cleared away because of the high that's coming in from the west. That being said, we do still have some showery rain around as we go through overnight across parts of, well, northern England into the Midlands, also across parts of Wales, and there could be some sleet or snow for a time over higher ground. But away from the cloudier zones, there will be some clear skies, and under the clear skies, temperatures taking a bit of a dip, touch of frost quite likely, especially across parts of Scotland. The sheltered glens could drop a few degrees below freezing. Elsewhere, most towns and cities just about holding up above freezing. But across Scotland, it's generally going to be a bright start tomorrow for many places. Those showers across some northern and western coastal parts in particular. A few showers for coastal parts of Northern Ireland too, but across the bulk of England and Wales, apart from a few showers towards the southwest, it's looking largely dry away from the far east, across parts of Lincolnshire, East Anglia, even towards Kent and London. A bit cloudier here and some blustery showers around coastal parts, but a lot of this will ease away as we go through into the afternoon. Otherwise, there will still be a few showers towards the northwest, but not that many, and actually a good deal of bright sunny spells to be had, a bit sunnier than today for many of us, though temperatures not rising that high, highs around 8 or 9 in the north and 9 or 10 further south. After a cold, frosty night for many overnight into Friday, Friday's actually looking like another largely fine day. Even more sunshine on offer and dry for most of us, though towards the far northwest. There is going to be a bit of cloud building in later, and that's because there's a front arriving, and that's going to bring some wet weather to northern parts as we go into the weekend, but staying dry and fine towards the south. Bye-bye.
All right, welcome back, everybody. A few more front pages for you now. We are starting this round with The Guardian. Yes, we are. Starmer to press Trump on security guarantees in critical Ukraine talks. We've spoken a lot about this. This is going to be leading the news tomorrow, isn't it? Starmer's on his way to Washington. The Times. Hospital hiring doctor to treat elderly patients in corridors. It's actually quite an old story. We've covered corridor nurses before, but there we go. Turbines will be painted black to cut bird deaths as well. So there we go. You won't just have white wind turbines now, you'll have black wind turbines, and hopefully rare birds will stop dying as a result. The Daily Mail. Starmer's set to blow defence billions on Chagos surrender. That was the story we led with earlier on. And The Sun. Jar Wars. I like this. I've got to be honest with you. I like it. After the Sussex brand launch, Kate Middleton, she's hit back. Yes, the Princess of Wales got in a sticky spot by inadvertently starting a jam war with Meghan Markle yesterday. She told a young fan about her love of making plum preserve and promised to give the recipe for free. That's how you do it, Kate. Beat Meghan at her own game. There you are. Right, let's just have a look at this video, all right? So this is the bizarre AI-generated video. Donald Trump has given us a taste of what Trump Gaza would look like. Here we go.
No more fear. Trump Gaza is finally here. Trump Gaza shining bright. Golden future, a brand new life. Feast and dance, the deal is done. Trump Gaza, #1. Trump Gaza shining bright. Golden future, a brand new life.
OK, what do we make of that then, Sam?
I mean, I'm just baffled and appalled. I mean, what on earth? This is a place which is a source of human misery. And then I was just really baffled.
I suppose the argument would be that he wants to turn it into a place of joy and wealth.
No,
I mean, we're not there yet, though, are we? We're just not anywhere near there.
I think he's just trolling. I think it's bad taste. People have died from... Gazans have died there. Israeli soldiers have died there. It's bad taste. But I think it's a troll to try and get that region to understand that if they don't all pull together...
It's Trump Gaza.
You know, it's going to be Trump Gaza. So maybe it is just to try and force all the neighbouring sort of countries to do more and take responsibility for that piece of land.
Yeah, I mean, there's the aspects of it which is him and Netanyahu on a sunbed.
That's obscene.
Drinking cocktails.
Yeah.
OK, zooming out a little bit from it, Tessa, why do you think he did that video? What do you think of?
He reposted it, didn't he? So it was an AI spoof video, and he reposted it. I think... Sometimes, because he occupies the role of president, a little bit too much attention is focused on every move and twitch. I mean, most almost 80-year-old men that I know are inconsistently appalling. You know, they sort of say things, they're sort of verbally leaky. Harsh! Let alone when they're on tech. You know, they're like dinosaurs from another world, and that's what Donald Trump's doing, isn't he? Sort of stamping around.
Over any kind of viewers here, if you know, of an older disposition.
We've got many 80-year-old viewers.
Yeah, I'm speaking my truth about... Well, my father's actually long dead. He never got that old. But the point is that, you know, it's like
they have
sort
an
of
accumulated life wisdom, actually.
They do.
That I enjoy. But anyway, carry on. Sorry, you go.
Indeed.
You go. Yes.
I've always preferred 80-year-old women to 80-year-old men, actually. I just find them more gentle and approachable. But I find generally women more gentle and approachable than men. Anyway, back to Trump specifically. He is in this ridiculously powerful position, and he's like a sort of kiddie in a sweet shop. You could take that analogy the other way. You know what it's like, the extremes of life. There's a sort of freedom to behave randomly. So that post was grotesquely out of taste. Because Trump, I don't believe, has an ounce of empathy. He hasn't even gone there. People at the moment in Gaza are picking through the rubble looking for their dead loved ones. That's the reality. The stench of rotting human flesh is appalling, just to keep it real. So the idea that you can overlay that with some grotesquely tacky...
I mean, there is
visage. It's dark.
I mean, he probably just found it funny, and not the human misery, of course, that video, I think. And, so I tend to take the view that I think it is a statement, like, look, OK, this is ridiculous now, a big gold statue of myself and the money falling for an Elon Musk eating hummus and whatever it is. But, like, maybe there's the potential... If the local countries, regional countries don't pull their weight, then you might get Trump Gaza, and that's maybe that. But anyway, we'll never know unless Keir Starmer, of course, asks him about it in a few hours' time when he meets him in person. By the way, I would love it if he did that.
Christopher Hope, if he gets a question at his press conference,
he wouldn't answer anyway.
I think the less said, the better about things like that, because if you get excited, it's a bit like the Elon Musk salute. Everyone was triggered by it, and I think the less triggered we can be, the less they'll feel the need. It's like a moth to a flame.
I think I'm sorry to stop this, but I think I have to go now to Josh Howie, who is there. Sorry, Josh. Anyway, you are doing headliners, of course, this evening. What are you going to go for?
I've just got so many stories. See you in a second. It's going to be funny. It's going to be great.
Good. I'm manic by the sounds of things. Sorry, everyone, my earpiece stopped working, so I ran out of time for Josh there. Apologies, which is why I think we got that version of him. I'm not sure when I have to leave this show now, because, like I said, my earpiece has stopped working. But thank you.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening. It's time for your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. And I have some good news if you're hoping for some fine weather as we go towards the very end of meteorological winter. High pressure is building, and so the frontal system that's brought quite a bit of rain today and then showers following behind is all going to get cleared away because of the high that's coming in from the west. That being said, we do still have some showery rain around as we go through overnight across parts of, northern England into the Midlands, also across parts of Wales, and there could be some sleet or snow for a time over higher ground. But away from the cloudier zones, there will be some clear skies, and under the clear skies, temperatures taking a bit of a dip, touch of frost quite likely, especially across parts of Scotland. The sheltered glens could drop a few degrees below freezing. Elsewhere, most towns and cities just about holding up above freezing. But across Scotland, it's generally going to be a bright start tomorrow for many places. Those showers across some northern and western coastal parts in particular. A few showers for coastal parts of Northern Ireland too, but across the bulk of England and Wales, apart from